Mario 64 Cosmic Ray? Is that a speedrunning thing or no? How cosmic rays affect Super Mario speedrunners. What the fuck is this? Spin Up Science with Dr. Ben Miles? What is he, a PhD in Mario speedruns? What the fuck is that?
Back in 2013, a speedrunner by the name of Dota Teabag was speedrunning a game of Mario 64 when suddenly they encountered what should have been an impossible glitch.
I remember this one.
They were teleported up through several platforms, saving a huge amount of time completing the level.
What the? What the?
Did you get invisible walls?
What?
Please say you got invisible.
No, that was the craziest thing I've ever seen, though.
The Super Mario 64 speedrunning community is absolutely massive, and a glitch like this
they never replicated this
to save players time navigating through a level would have been huge. When the stream clip caught the attention of a particularly prominent speedrunner, they offered a $1,000 prize to anyone that could replicate the glitch. In the glitch hunt that followed, numerous hunters tried to replicate the situation that led to this event. None of them were able to. Even when they matched it frame by frame in emulation
made one on
software,
this?
still they weren't able to replicate the sudden jump in height. After 8 years of trying, no one had been able to replicate this event. Why? Probably because it was influenced by outer space. Users
Wait, that's crazy.
I
didn't know it was that big.
Probably happened due to the flip in a bit of a byte that describes the height of the player character, and that the likely cause, the probable cause of that flip was a particle of ionizing radiation, or more commonly called a cosmic ray. Cosmic rays originate from outer space, from stars and from supernova. They are typically protons, high energy particles, or helium nuclei that are traveling almost the speed of light through space.
Wait, this is like a legitimate thing? I thought this was going to be like some kind of fucking meme or a conspiracy.
Atmosphere, what happens is
the sun blasted 5G at the Super Mario runner.
Things like pions, electrons, other leptons, alpha particles, and photons.
Okay, hold on. Let me see Veritasium explain it. The universe is hostile to computers. Yep, and then there's the Mario 64 thing. Holy shit.
A plane plummets out of the sky. A
speedrunner
inexplicably jumps to a higher platform.
What the? What the?
And an election recount is triggered. All because of the same invisible phenomenon that permeates the universe. Each voter would insert a magnetic card into the machine and make their selection on screen. Their vote was saved both to the computer and the magnetic card, which they dropped into a box for redundancy. One of the election officials detected a problem with the results from Schaerbeek, a municipality in central Brussels. Maria Vindevogel, a little-known candidate with her own party, received more votes than was mathematically possible. They knew this because of the way the preferential voting system works.
Congrats, Maria.
They took out the magnetic cards and started a recount. One by one, they fed each of them through the machines again. After several hours, the recount was complete. The vote totals for every candidate were exactly the same as before, except for Maria Vindevogel.
Oh man,
in her
she really
case,
fell
the
off.
recounted number of votes was less than the original by 4,096.
Damn.
So what went wrong? How had her original tally been inflated by over 4,000 votes? They got the computer that had made the initial erroneous tally and tested the hardware again and again, but they could not replicate the error.
Lol,
Everything about the
trolled by
hardware
a
seemed to be in
neutrino.
perfect working order.
You prank
This
nerds.
left only one possible explanation, and it is seriously weird.
Reptilians.
The clue comes from the excess number of votes Vindevogel received, 4,096. Computers work using binary, strings of zeros and ones, each corresponding to a power of 2. So somewhere inside the computer tabulating all the votes was a string of bits representing the number of votes Maria received. It started the day all zeros, and then as each vote for her came in, it would increment by 1. Physically, this is done by turning on a transistor for 1 and turning it off for 0. What's remarkable about the number 4096 is that it is exactly a power of 2. 2 to the power of 12.
Well, not yet, Wonder.
That is the 13th bit.
But I'm not a
so
big meme
for
guy.
Maria Vindevogel to receive an extra 4,096 votes, only one thing needed to happen. The 13th bit had to flip from a 0 to a 1. But why would that happen? Computers work precisely because bits don't flip unless we want them to. Or do they?
Oh
Looking into the
shit,
problem,
God was
Belgian
playing a
investigators found
joke?
reports of similar issues from big computer companies starting in the 1970s. In 1978, Intel reported some strange errors popping up in their 16 kilobit dynamic random access memory. The problem turned out to be the ceramic packaging the chip was encased in. With the demand for semiconductor packaging skyrocketing in the 1970s, a new manufacturing plant was constructed on the Green River in Colorado. Unfortunately, this site happened to be just downstream of an old uranium mill.
Oh,
Radioactive
classic.
atoms made their way into the river and then into the ceramic packaging for Intel's microchips. Intel scientists investigating the problem found that even trace amounts of uranium and thorium in the ceramic were sufficient to cause problems.
Wow.
In their DRAM,
It's
memory was
Epstein's
stored as
ghost.
the presence
Yeah, that's
or
probably what it
absence
was.
of electrons in a semiconductor well. The alpha particles emitted by uranium and thorium were energetic and ionizing enough to create electron-hole pairs in the silicon. If an alpha particle struck in just the right place, it could create a large number of free charge carriers, causing electrons to accumulate in the well, flipping a 1 to a 0. This is known as a single event upset.
That's pretty
a type
cool.
of soft error. The error is soft because the device hasn't been damaged. The bit has changed, but you could erase it and rewrite it with no problems. Investigators exposed the chips to alpha emitters with different levels of activity.
They should have done
Just as
gamma
you'd expect,
emitters.
They found
Create
the
the
number of
Hulk.
bit flips directly correlated with the number of alpha particles the chip had been exposed to. Immediately, these findings attracted a lot of attention. Before the paper was published, it was widely circulated in the industry. And as a result, chip manufacturers were a lot more careful to avoid radioactive materials when producing their microchips.
This is about Mario. It's all the same
Therefore,
thing.
the bit flip that gave Maria Vindevogel 4,096 extra votes wasn't caused by natural radioactivity in the computer. So where did it come from?
The sun.
After Henri Becquerel discovered radioactivity with uranium in 1896, scientists sought a way to measure it. How radioactive were different materials? And one way to do this is with a gold leaf electrometer. When it's charged, the leaf is repelled, and you can measure the amount of charge by the angle of the leaf. Now, if ionizing radiation enters the chamber, it rips electrons off air molecules, creating positive and negative charges. Opposite charges are attracted to the leaf, discharging it over time. In 1911, Austrian physicist Victor Hess decided to take this experiment further.
Hard to believe these guys were so smart.
Electroscopes into the
They didn't
basket
even
of a
have the
hydrogen
internet.
balloon. In his
Or
first two
Reddit.
flights, he observed the same thing as Wolf. Up to an altitude of 1,100 meters, both trips revealed no fundamental change in radiation compared to the values observed on the ground.
I'm fucking back.
Appeared to be coming
Thank you for the tier 1, Dawson.
but from the sky. Hess scheduled one of his balloon flights during a solar eclipse, and as the moon passed in front of the sun, he carefully watched his instruments. But the readings were unaffected. Even with the sun half covered, the level of radiation was the same. Since no influence of the eclipse on the penetrating radiation was noted, we conclude that even if a part of the radiation should be of cosmic origin, it hardly emanates from the sun.
How did you get a
Victor
PS5?
Hess
I bought
had
it from a
discovered
scalper.
cosmic rays,
Thanks for some Baileys
high-energy
and stuff.
radiation from space.
Wouldn't recommend doing that.
But what were these rays exactly, and where were they coming from? Well, today we know they aren't electromagnetic rays, as many suspected, but particles. Around 90% are protons, 9% are helium nuclei, and 1% are heavier nuclei. Some of them are from the sun, but they have comparatively low energy. High-energy cosmic rays, moving very close to the speed of light, come from exploding stars, supernovae, in our own galaxy and in others. And the
How
highest
often
energy
does that
particles
happen?
are thought to come from black holes, including the supermassive black holes at the centers of galaxies. But it's hard to pin down exactly where cosmic rays come from because, as charged particles, they're deflected by magnetic fields in space. So they can wind their way through the universe for billions of years. A cosmic ray detected on October 15th, 1991, had an energy of 51 joules. That is a single subatomic particle with the energy of a baseball going 100 kilometers per hour. For obvious reasons, it was dubbed the OMG particle.
Thanks to the resub innocence.
Primary cosmic rays like these.
Hey, wait. The OMG particle, is that, that's what they use to, like, prove alien, like, some people talk about that as, like, proof aliens communicated with us? Or are those two separate things? Because I remember for a lot of, like, UFO conspiracy theorists, they always talking about the, like, the wow signal, where they thought they had gotten a response back from space. These aren't related? Okay. Okay.
Get down to Earth's surface. Instead, they collide with air molecules around 25 kilometers above the ground and create new particles, like pions. These collide and decay into other particles, like neutrons, protons, muons, electrons, positrons, and photons.
Positron is a character from City of Heroes.
In one long cascade. So, from a single primary cosmic ray comes a shower of particles streaming towards the Earth. It is one of these particles that investigators suspect struck a transistor in a computer in Belgium, flipping the 13th bit from a 0 to a 1 and giving Maria Vindevogel 4,096 extra votes.
Maria needs to say thank you to that supernova.
How often do things like this happen?
Write a thank you card.
In 1911, Charles Wilson made it possible to see the cosmic rays all around us when he perfected his cloud chamber, an enclosure with supersaturated water or alcohol vapor. When a cosmic ray passes through the chamber, it ionizes the gas, causing vapor to condense into tiny droplets on the ions, revealing the path of the particle. Alpha particles, helium nuclei,
it's pretty fucking cool.
Short, thick tracks, while beta particles, electrons, leave long, skinny trails. This is possibly the rarest thing to ever happen in a video game. In 2013, user Dota Teabag was speedrunning Super Mario 64 on the console. In the level TikTok Clock,
I'm glad his name's Dota Teabag.
Onto a higher platform.
What the?
Did you get invisible walls?
What?
Please say you got invisible.
No, that was the craziest thing I've ever seen, though.
The move shaves off a few seconds, and it seems like a newly discovered glitch in the game that could give speedrunners an edge. User PanandCook12 put out a $1,000 bounty for anyone who could replicate the upwarp. But so far, after 6 years, no one has been able to. The best explanation anyone can come up with is that a cosmic ray caused the glitch. On the main level, the byte was 11000101, but if you flip the last 1 to a 0, it changes his vertical position. And just by chance, this new height coincides with the higher floor.
That's so fucking cool.
Wrote a script to manually flip the bit at the right moment and was able to achieve the same upwarp. This is a particularly visible bit flip, but the truth is, cosmic rays are triggering bit flips all the time.
When people see the blue screen of death, could that be caused by a cosmic ray?
Absolutely.
These days, there are a number of ways computer chips are made resilient in the face of bit flips, like error correction code or ECC memory. But you can't totally prevent bit flips from happening. In 1996, IBM estimated that for each 256 megabytes of RAM, 1 bit flip occurs per month. And the main culprit seems to be neutrons created in the shower of particles from cosmic rays. Starting in 2009, Toyota recalled millions of vehicles due to the problem of unintended acceleration.
Time to get serious. I'm putting the glasses on. How do we stop these particles?
He said that the car was continuing to accelerate.
Let me think on it.
And he couldn't bring it to a
What
stop.
if we delete
speculated
space
that cosmic ray
and just keep Earth
flips
alive?
in the electronic control system were the cause. So much so that NASA was called in to help with the investigation. But it turns out cosmic rays were probably not the culprit. NASA identified as the main causes sticky accelerator pedals, poorly fitted floor mats, and most commonly, drivers pushing on the accelerator thinking it was the brake.
That's so cute. Thanks,
but
Dawson.
Cosmic rays have caused crashes of supercomputers, especially at higher elevations. Los Alamos National Labs, located 2,200 meters above sea level, is constantly dealing with neutron-induced supercomputer crashes. So the software autosaves frequently, and neutron detectors have been installed throughout the facility. If you go even higher, like climbing up to cruising altitude in a plane, you can see the radiation from cosmic rays increasing on a Geiger counter.
To 0.5 microsieverts per hour at 18,000 feet,
up to 1 microsievert per hour.
So they just fucking wander on this planet willy-nilly and they don't even fucking pay for it.
And over 3 microsieverts per hour.
There's no toll system set up?
And towards the poles. At cruising altitude, this increases the chance of a single event upset by 10 to 30 times. This isn't critical if it happens in your laptop, but what if it occurs in the flight computer? On October
well, it's going to give me another thing to worry about while flying.
Airbus A330 took off from
Singapore I just never fly.
to Perth. Just over 3 hours into the flight, the plane suddenly pitched down, diving 200 meters in 20 seconds.
More proof why I don't go on planes.
Everyone experienced negative 0.8 Gs of acceleration. It would have felt like the plane had flipped over.
Thanks to Prime Chaos.
G-force was enough, even with our 3-point harness, to lift us both out of the seat and push us forward as well.
Minutes later, the plane dropped another 120 meters.
Jesus, those particles are angry.
People on board were injured, many from bumping their heads into the ceiling. So the pilots decided to make an emergency landing in Learmonth. In the investigation that followed, the fault seemed to occur with the first Air Data Inertial Reference Unit, or ADIRU for short. The other potential triggering event was a single event effect resulting from a high-energy atmospheric particle striking one of the integrated circuits within the CPU module. With the space shuttle, redundancy was built in from the start. For navigation and control, there were 4 computers simultaneously running identical software. If one computer had a soft error, the other 3 would overrule it. And using this setup, they could also track the frequency of bit flips. On one 5-day mission, STS-48, there were 161 separate bit flips.
That's a lot.
Above the atmosphere, cosmic rays are so energetic, sometimes you can even see them.
Once in a while, you have your eyes closed and you're not asleep yet. And if you wait a little while, you occasionally will see a flash of light. And we think it is heavy particles or individual bursts of energy coming from radiation that are either going through the eyeball itself or going through the optic nerve. And the way that your body registers radiation going through it is amazingly enough by showing you a little flash in one of your eyes, just to remind you that you are subject to the radiation of not only our sun, but every star of the universe that is.
Does that happen? I've never had that happen.
I picture back to the first astronauts who must have closed their eyes and seen that radiation and going, I'm not going to tell anybody about this because no one's told me about it. I'm not talking. And I can just imagine the first 2 guys that said, hey, sometimes I see flashes of light. Do you see flashes of light? And then it's, oh, we all see flashes of light. Oh, okay. Well, that's all right then.
For missions to
that guy's so likable.
Protecting electronics is critical. As the Voyager 1 spacecraft departed the solar system, one of the ways we could tell was by an increase in the flux of cosmic rays it experienced. Although on Earth the particles streaming from the sun and the solar wind are a source of radiation, further out, these same particles maintain a protective bubble, the heliosphere. It helps deflect and slow cosmic rays from interstellar space, protecting the solar system from ionizing radiation. But the sun has an 11-year activity cycle, so this protection fluctuates. The flux of cosmic rays on Earth is much lower when the sun is active than when it's dormant. In the history of our planet, cosmic rays may have played an even larger role, flipping bits not in electronics, but in the genetic codes of living organisms, providing some of the variation on which natural selection acts. Maria Vindevogel is now a member of the Belgian Chamber of Representatives.
The cosmic rays chose Maria.
People, not a particle.
No, it was the particles.
Her story is a reminder of the zillions of particles winding their way through the universe for millions or billions of years.
Fever and the
one of which might,
Yoba.
At any moment, change your life by passing through a tiny transistor and crack.
That was super interesting. That was pretty fucking wild. And it all happened because of Super Mario 64. Without Mario, cosmic rays wouldn't exist. Spider-Man trailer. I'm gonna get that out of the way right away. Trailers are spoilers. I mean, the only reason I watch trailers is because chat makes me. I am not a trailer guy. I just don't care to watch trailers, to be honest. All I need to know is the movie coming out? Yes? Cool, I'll check it out. We can see the why can you see the fucking dislikes? It's super weird. Some videos I can, some videos I can't. It seems like it's rolling out really sporadically. On my phone, it's like across the board I can't see dislikes, but on computer, it's video by video basis. Are you a Marvel fan? I mean, I enjoy the movies, but I'm really tired of them at this point. Like, Eternals wasn't really interesting. Shang-Chi, I really enjoyed. Black Widow was horrible. Trying to work backwards, what was before Black Widow? Loki was good. Loki's a show, I'm talking about movies. I think they're doing well on their shows. I really think all of these, like, big franchises work better as shows instead of movies, because the movies just always fall into the same exact formula. Alright, I think we've waited long enough. Hopefully this will be most people that would recommend it. Exit Prime, Meg Mars.
Ever since I got bit by that spider,
New sub squoosh.
I've only had 1 week where my life has felt normal. That was when you found out.
They still making the Halo series? You talking about the TV series? Yeah.
Peter Parker's Spider-Man. We started getting some visitors. From every universe.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Hello, Peter. You're not Peter Parker.
I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Dr. Otto Octavius.
Wait, no, seriously, what's your actual name?
There are others out there. We need to send them back.
I already know the big spoiler.
This crap.
You know, all this is kind of your mess. I know a couple of magic words myself, starting with the word please.
Please, Scooby-Doo this crap.
Look, there has to be another way.
There isn't.
I mean, it's not cringe, it's just normal. Like, it's just a normal Marvel trailer. Like, I have nothing to say about it. Like, it's just standard Marvel, man. Like,
have everything you want while the world tries to make you choose.
I do love Willem Dafoe, though.
This is all my fault. I can't save everyone.
Exclusively in movie theaters.
All right.
29th, Spider Monday.
I just have nothing to say about it. It's just normal Marvel shit. Though I do know two things. The big fan theory is that this scene is edited, that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are in this scene as well, because in the scene the lizard man gets hit by something invisible and they assume it's a punch from one of the other Spider-Men. Which I think makes sense. I think there's potential with that fan theory. And then in this scene, you can see the costume of another Spider-Man somewhere. I don't know, somewhere. Maybe here. Yeah, here. I don't see it. It's right... I guess it's a little dark on stream compared to my monitor. But there's a red and blue color up here, and people assume this is another Spider-Man. Which it could be. I don't particularly care. I'll go into the movie and get hype if I see them, and I won't be disappointed if I don't. Like, again, I don't really care about trailers that much, like, at all. Forged in Fire. I still really like Forged in Fire. I just hate that they don't post the full episodes anymore. It's really upsetting. Sword hacks and slashes, the final round. Oh, it's the epic Game of Thrones sword.
Champion is... Trevor, congratulations. You're the new Forged in Fire champion.
I can't believe that. I thought his blade was fucked. Still haven't watched the NASCAR one. Oh, the Everest discrepancy is EmpLemon's.
One of the most popular superlatives because it's so unambiguous. Being the first person to do anything is a big deal. All who follow you have no choice but to know your name. If you're the first
Not true.
monumental, history will remember you long after you're gone.
I used to think that too. Like, if you're the first person to do something, it's a big deal. But nowadays, no one fucking cares. Like, think of something you use every day. A sink. Who was the guy who invented the sink? Fucking John Nobody? Like, only certain things is it cool to be first in.
Most superlatives end with the suffix est, a grammatical trait rather fittingly shared by the tallest mountain on the planet. Mount Everest is quite possibly the world's most famous landform. It towers nearly 9 kilometers above sea level and can be seen from over 300 kilometers away, equivalent to seeing New York City from Boston. It's a well-known fact that the first person to reach the summit of Everest was Sir Edmund Hillary in 1953. It's one of those pieces of trivia that gets thrown around so much that you just stop questioning it.
No, I never knew that.
It seems like something that should be indisputable. The first man to set foot atop the tallest mountain. An unambiguous statement of fact. Except, 29 years before Edmund Hillary reached the top of Everest, there's a small chance, but a chance nonetheless, that someone else may have got there first.
Who was the first person to poop without peeing?
The Western world first laid eyes on
another
Everest
great
in the middle
example.
of the 19th century,
Thanks, man.
But it wasn't until 1921 when they first set foot on it. That year, the British Royal Geographic Society financed the first expedition to explore Everest and identify a route to the top. A leading member of the expedition was 34-year-old George Mallory, considered to be one of the most skilled climbers.
Hey, George.
Just 5 years prior, Mallory was fighting in the Battle of the Somme. In 1922, Mallory was about to enter one of the few places on Earth that was even more hospitable. For millennia, civilizations around the world have considered the highest mountains to be sacred grounds. Anyone who dared to climb them would be trespassing in the realm of gods. No matter how superstitious you are, you can't deny that there are some places on Earth that human beings were never designed to go.
No, we can go anywhere.
Like Everest, the terrain
Fuck
is so
nature.
precarious that one misstep can result
Thanks
in
for the 5
fatal
gift subs,
fall.
Omelet. Appreciate
For most
it.
of the year,
Thank
the
you,
summit
Omelet.
is blasted with hurricane-force winds, enough to blow any climber clear off the mountain.
I did not know
Any
that.
practical attempts to reach the summit have to be conducted in roughly a 10-day window before the annual monsoon season. Combined with highly reflective snow, people on Everest are at constant risk of snow blindness and other debilitating
Jesus
eye problems.
Christ.
Even during optimal weather,
I had no
can
idea.
change in an instant. The single most life-threatening factor has to do with what isn't there. At 29,000 feet, air pressure is 3 times lower than at sea level, meaning that climbers have access to only 1/3 as much oxygen. Mount Everest is one of 14 summits that extends above the 8,000 meter mark, otherwise known as the death zone. Beyond
That's
this
hardcore.
altitude, climbers who enter this range are no longer flirting with death. They are literally in the process of dying. If anyone in the death zone fails to descend back to a safe altitude in time, their chances of survival are 0. The death zone presents an extreme complication by making any run
Seeing
towards the
pictures, it
Everest
doesn't
summit a
look that
crucially
crazy.
time-sensitive event. Climbers must maintain a certain pace on the final ascent or else risk running out of oxygen. And 99 years ago, George Mallory was one of 6 climbers trying to get there. On
No
May
way he
19,
survived.
1922,
He's still up
Mallory
there.
led Howard Somerville, Edward Norton, and Henry Morshead on
Edward
the first
Norton?
official attempt to reach the Everest
Oh my
summit.
god.
Across 3 days, the team trekked up the north side of the mountain, eventually reaching a record altitude of 8,225 meters
Thanks,
before
Resub
turning
Ekix.
back. On May 24th, George Finch and Jeffrey Bruce set off on another attempt, this time making use of supplemental oxygen. On the 27th, Finch reached a new altitude record of 8,326 meters. Immediately, Mallory was eager to make his own attempt with oxygen,
Thanks, Resub Justin.
believing that it was his ticket to making history. While many of the exhausted climbers were hesitant to make a third attempt, Mallory's fascination with Everest had begun to turn into an obsession. On June 3rd, he
Imagine being
convinced
obsessed
several
with a
climbers
mountain.
to follow him on a hastily
Idiot.
improvised trek
Find
to
a
the
waifu
summit.
like a normal guy.
They were joined by 14 Sherpa porters who were assisting in hauling equipment to the higher camps. On June 7th, Mallory's party triggered an avalanche that buried 7 porters alive. The disaster would mark the immediate end of the expedition. After the failure of 1922, he would have to wait 2 more years until his next chance to conquer Everest. The May of 1924 featured historically poor weather conditions at Everest. Not wanting a repeat of the 1922 disaster, the group decided to overrule Mallory's original plan and attempt the summit without oxygen.
Why?
The change frustrated Mallory, who now viewed oxygen as a necessity to reach the summit. After less than a day, the pair disappointingly aborted their attempt after weather forced them to
not even 8,000 meters?
On June 2nd, Norton and Somerville began their attempt, this time finding themselves in ideal weather as they marched higher up the mountain. On the morning of June 8th, Odell eagerly waited for visual confirmation of the climbers, but Everest Peak for the moment was obscured by mist.
Oh, they died.
At 12:50 p.m., there was a sudden break in the cloud cover, allowing Odell to clearly see the summit. There, Odell witnessed 2 black dots scaling one of the rock steps on the northeast ridge, with one dot appearing to climb up and over the crest, just below the final summit pyramid. After 5 minutes, the mist rolled back in, and the 2 figures disappeared behind the clouds.
Tier 1
this
piss
small
kinks.
fleeting moment would be the last time that George Mallory and Sandy Irvin were ever seen alive.
Oh, they did die.
Shortly
I
after
figured.
the sighting, a storm hit the mountain,
Yeah, that was a
and the 2
wild
climbers
idea.
did not return from their attempt. Odell, as the closest party member, hiked up to around 8,200 meters to search for them, but after 24 hours, he signaled the rest of the crew that no trace could be found. Mallory and
They
Irvin
became
had been lost to
Everest.
the mountain placement. Today, the fine people at Bespoke Post have sponsored me
Ah,
on an
Bespoke Post.
expedition to become the first green man to climb the tallest mountain.
Exit Tier
in
1
Florida.
Turtle and Resub
I'm
Mackie.
being joined by my Sherpa, Rusty Cage, and today, thanks to his help, we're going to be making history.
Now you've seen
I'll
your
let the
share
ad
of
ride.
subscription boxes, but I'm telling you, buddy, Bespoke Post is unlike anything you've ever seen before. Bespoke offers a variety of premium goods from under-the-radar brands. Many of their products come from small businesses based right here in the U.S. Whether you like
Yeah, it's like
cooking,
4
fashion,
minutes,
or
is
the
it?
great outdoors, Bespoke has a box
Oh, you're
for
right.
you. And unlike other subscription boxes, at Bespoke, you only
Alright. Bespoke Post
Following
is
the
good though.
1920 The first party confirmed to successfully climb the second step was the 1960 Chinese expedition, which managed to overcome the obstacle using pitons, a climbing aid which Mallory and Irvin did not have. Even with superior tools, it still took the Chinese 5 excruciating hours to complete the climb. Future expeditions
Prime
would
Juno.
install a ladder to make surmounting the second step somewhat bearable.
Oh, thanks, Ali. Appreciate that.
Historical hindsight of the second step's extreme difficulty shed serious doubt on whether Mallory or Irvin.
So Odell
could
killed
climb
them
back in 1924.
as a sacrifice to Everest.
Irvin, a novice climber, was almost certainly out of his depth. Mallory would have also had to scale the step using rudimentary gear while hauling.
Just get a jetpack.
oxygen
Jesus Christ.
canisters. Making an
It's like they didn't even try.
on an unexplored obstacle under all these circumstances
Most
would have
adventurous thing
required
I've
a
ever wanted to do?
superhuman effort,
Nothing. Fuck
and to
adventure.
do so in the 5 minutes that Odell supposedly saw. It would have to have been one of the most unlikely miracles in the history of mountain climbing. It's for this reason why many have inferred that Odell did not see the 2 climbers surmounting the second step, but rather the comparatively easier first step.
Some dude actually landed a helicopter on Everest? That is pretty cool.
Meteorological data gathered at the base camp during the expedition recorded a significant drop in barometric pressure between the 8th and 9th, which would have made the air near the summit even more thin. Everest climber Graham Hoyland extrapolated that on the day that Mallory and Irvin trekked to the summit, the drop in air pressure would have added the equivalent of 180 meters to the effective altitude of the mountain. Unfortunately, their summit day coincided with the arrival of that season's monsoon, and to get to the summit,
so they just got fucked up
had
there.
to survive the storm that hit the mountain
Jesus
at around
Christ.
2 p.m.
Poor guys.
Eventually,
They
though,
used
as
dead
more
people on
expeditions
Everest as
ventured up
progress
the slopes of
markers.
Everest, clues began to emerge
pretty
of
wild.
the fate of the 2 wayward climbers. In 1933, crew members discovered a lost ice pick just below the first step. The pick was eventually proven to belong to Sandy Irvin,
Sandy!
who likely dropped it near the scene of the climber's fatal accident. Now that an artifact from the missing climbers had been recovered,
Thanks, Resub Jimmy.
researchers of the mystery concluded that their final resting place couldn't have been far. Due to the extreme cold near the Everest summit, bodies stranded atop the mountain don't decompose, allowing them to essentially remain frozen in time. In 1975, Chinese climber Wang Hongbao reported spotting a body at an altitude of 8,100 meters. Judging by their clothes, the remains must have belonged to a climber from an old British expedition. 24 years later, several researchers organized a search to locate the deceased climber. It was on that expedition that Conrad Anker discovered a corpse about 300 meters beneath the site of the lost ice pick. Lying there, face down in the snow, was the body of George Mallory.
Oh!
Mallory's remains showed evidence of three key injuries. He suffered a broken leg, a puncture wound in the skull, and bruising from a rope around his waist. The bruising indicated that Mallory and Irvin were likely roped together when one of them fell, snapping the rope and separating the duo. Mallory's injuries were not severe enough to indicate a steep fall. He may have experienced a minor stumble at the ice axe location, after which he descended further down the slope where he suffered a second, fatal fall. Mallory was probably descending after the sun had set or during storm conditions.
Oh, so he didn't make it?
One of his pockets concealed a note with a list of 5 oxygen cylinders, providing evidence that the climbers had brought one extra cylinder than previously thought. In fact, the same search mission
Didn't they make a book about this? I don't know, man. I don't read books.
An artifact which
it's not The Outsiders. I don't know it. This doesn't seem like The Outsiders.
Rumored to be among Mallory's possessions was a photo of his wife, which he planned to place at the summit.
Aww.
The photo was not found on Mallory's body, sparking further speculation to a successful attempt. But beyond speculation, no evidence could be found that conclusively proved
These
whether
are 5
he
gift subs,
did or did not
Impressionable.
reach the summit.
Thank you,
Many
Impressionable.
researchers hoped that finding George Mallory would finally provide a solution to mountaineering's greatest mystery. Today, nearly 100 years after the tragedy, climbing experts are still split on the fate of Mallory and Irvin. Seasoned veterans like Conrad Anker and Graham
Maybe they faked their own death.
They did not make it.
They made it to the top and then went with aliens elsewhere.
Factors working against them. Other researchers are more optimistic.
These are 5 gift subs, Lando, and the resub Nova.
Consistency in the number of sleeping bags accounted for on the 1924 expedition, and suggests that Mallory and Irvin may have carried 2 of them on their summit attempt. There are various other creative theories regarding Mallory and Irvin, but until further evidence surfaces, a definitive conclusion may never be reached.
Until now.
Fortunately, the mystery is not yet a hopeless cause, as the answer to the summit question may lie among the still undiscovered remains of Sandy Irvin. At the time, the prospect of rock samples had been completely overshadowed by the single most compelling missing piece from the 1924 expedition. As Mallory passed Howard Somerville on his final trek up the mountain,
maybe they got robbed
he asked
up
to
there.
borrow Somerville's portable Kodak camera to capture photographs
Tier
in the
1
event
prolapse.
of a successful
No
attempt.
problem, Jeffy.
When Mallory was found in 1999, the camera was not found among his possessions. Therefore, it is likely that Mallory handed off the camera to Irvin sometime during their descent. If the camera is ever located, the undeveloped film within could finally solve the mystery once and for all. Kodak provided special instructions to give the film its best chance at survival. But before any images can be retrieved, researchers will most likely have to locate the body of Sandy Irvin first. Xu Jing of the 1960 Chinese expedition claimed to have seen a dead climber lying on his back
then?
near the
Not worth
first
the
step.
time.
Many researchers
I'll lose
have
internet
inferred that this
internet
must have been
connection, so I won't be able to grind
but subsequent
RuneScape.
Searches of the
What's the
area
point?
thus far turned up nothing. Somewhere high up on the mountain, the missing piece of the Everest discrepancy is waiting to be found. But until that happens, all we have are the theories. It's possible that as Mallory was staring down his greatest adversary, he may have been thinking the same way.
Yeah, I think he made it. I think he's still up there. He's just hanging out.